week.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Can I have someone to move the Councillor Law and Councillor Kennedy? All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item 8.3.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. Item 8.3 is for the road closure of Orchard Street in South Corowa. As stated within the report, there's a fairly long history on this closure, both written and verbal. I've had discussions so far with all three of the owners, a couple of the owners more than once, as part of my formulating the response or the recommendations out of the report. What I'm seeking from council isn't just the recommendation, but it's also a consistent approach that we can take to all road closures within township areas. Predominantly the reason for the recommendation that will give me that approach. So I'll leave it to council.
Can I remove it first? Councillor Longwire, second, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Longwire, comment.
Yeah, in support of the recommendation, Mr Mayor, as we all know as councillors, we've workshopped this at length, and so the discussion's been prevalent in that opportunity, and so where it's coming to now, I think the main thing is in regard to the not consenting to the closure of Orchard Street, meaning that council's position has always been to accommodate and maintain public roads, and some of those dimensions turn to school bus routes, most important, access to residences. I think that's another thing that we all belong to and make sure it's in position, and the other one is the provision of services for residences. And so in this situation, and the services such as water, power, natural gas to residences, and in this instance it's for a new home, and so duty bound, that opportunity for the full width road to be open is so important, and so with that opportunity I'd like to move that this recommendation be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Law.
Well, I'd like to speak against the motion. I feel that the map that we have up there is a little misleading. Section A on the map at the top is actually only half of the road, it's not the whole road. And then Section B does butt up onto Section A, it goes right through, and that's not what is shown us on the map. The landholder on the right of Section A has had a lease agreement with the former Corowa Shire for some time, and although it expires in 2018, I think that having had that lease agreement, it is now unreasonable to expect him to forfeit that lease and remove those buildings after they've been there for so long. The former Corowa Shire has known about those buildings there for at least 12 years that I know of. Section A could be closed, as it is shown there, and it still leaves half the road to form a lane, which would go to the new residents. It would join on to Section B. The landholder would have access to his land. I am in agreement that we don't close Section B, because it would go right up to Section A and join onto that road. And then if there's any further development on the land on the right of Section B, a road could be put into that Section B road, and it could be closed. I believe that the land at Section A should be the landholder of Section A should be given the option to purchase that land at market value price, rather than being forced to move his sheds without any notice other than it's got to be done by the end of April. I think this is quite unreasonable. I think even though I believe those buildings were put there without council permission, they've been there for so long. If it was in Victoria, it would be his land now. He would be able to acquire that land. But in New South Wales, we don't have those laws. I just think we're being quite unreasonable. I haven't spoken to the landholder. I'm just judging this on my own opinion. If it was me, I would be very disgruntled. So I'm happy to see Section B not closed, But section A, I think, could be closed, and that would still give that landholder on the left-hand side access through a laneway. There's many laneways in South Corowa, and that would join on to section B then. You'd have plenty of room to get in and out.
Sorry, Councillor Rogers.
Mr Mayor, I too had a look at the map presented, the aerial view, and as this has been going on for quite some time with both of the landholders, I think that there's an omission on that that diagram there, or that map, that there's actually a parcel of land to the left of laneway A that is owned by the landowner of A. Now, that land, he owns that land. There couldn't be a laneway go down there because there's a parcel of land, correct me if I'm wrong, that is owned by resident A that restricts access through there to laneway B. Would I be right?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's a couple of points I'd like to clarify. The road closure we've received from Crown Land is as shown. The only difference being section B is split vertically down so that the land can be then sold to either adjoining owners. So that parcel there has a line vertically down it, splitting it in two. In here, that allotment, yes, is owned by this owner. It was originally put in with the intent to sell to this owner. Because of disagreements, that's not going to occur now. So we're restricted back to that narrow width through there. The owners that I've spoken to, the three of them, have all agreed, regardless of what occurs, as long as they're all treated equally and fairly, if one's closed, then they all get the closure. If one's left open, they all get theirs forced open. They don't want to see one getting a favour over the others. That all of the landowners have expressed that opinion to me. And those discussions have been since probably mid-December to now, so it's recent as we can get from them. I'd just like Council to be aware of that and keep that in mind while discussing that.
Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, thank you, Director for Infrastructure. I was sort of aware through different discussions that was the case, and that would then make that laneway not practical and certainly not available. I think, given the comment that we need to have a set guideline so that if this ever happens again, we've got something to refer back to, and it appears that the recommendation whereby opening that road up, everybody's dealt fairly, and we've now got something in place that would say this is how it's done, and we move forward from there. I don't think that there's any one way that any particular landowner would be benefited by any other way of adjacent to Block B. You'd be accessing that driveway halfway down a hill, which I think is not fair. So that I support what Councillor Longmire says, is that we look at opening that road up so that the services can be ran, and then we've got something in place for future if this ever happens again.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Councillor?
Right, a reply, please.
Councillor Moore?
If I may. Right, a reply. I think we've got to set up, it's been identified, some consistency here. I go back to what I referred to in regard to the opportunity as our priority policy to give access to residents and school bus. I think that's so important. We have to be consistent in these situations. And the infrastructure that's on portion A there, it may have a permit that expired. It was a 12-month, it doesn't have a permit. Okay, so there's no DA application in that structure. It's been an opportunity to release that piece of land up until May this year. Have I got that right? Thank you for that. So there's clarity there. So what we need to do is understand what the situation is in regard to our policy and what the situation is in regard to no DA where that building is. Those are the things that are, as a council in a planning matter, we should be really all over, because that's the thing that in the long term becomes a consistency. So once again, I support the opportunity with the recommendation. Thank you.
Any further speakers? If not, I'll put it. Councillor Megan.
Has the landowner A been approached about the removal of the shed and his reaction to that?
Through you, Mr Mayor. He has. He spoke to me, it was late January, discussed this whole issue. He's the one who made very clear to me that should to remove his shed, everybody should be treated equally, which includes the opening of Section B and the removal of any fences or structures on Section B as well.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
So, any more comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. We'll need a show of hands, I think, for this one, councillors. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? Carried. Councillor Longmire.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, your position.
My position was in the majority, with the majority.
Okay, thank you.
As I take on board your points, consistency. If you get a difficult situation, you go back to the law of the land. There's no grey areas for anyone then going forward in the future. But for what I feel sorry for the guy that's got the material there, but as it's pointed out, it's illegally there, shouldn't be there. So to get consistency, I'd have to go with the majority. Okay, 8.4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very good. Yes, we've been fortunate with the flood management program up in the Urena region, and all the Ran, Barunda, Borry Creek as well. We completed the flood study last year, so stage 1 of it. We're now put an application in for stage 2 to carry out the risk management study and plan, and we've been successful in the funding of that project. It's a $245,000 project, with the grant being $210,000 and $35,000 to be provided by council. And as per the recommendation, I support that council note the report and that we commit the required funding to the project.
Councillor, can I remove that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Longley. Questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to notice of motion. Question with notice. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, may I thank Mr. Wolf for accepting my question with notice. I don't believe I have a pecuniary interest in this situation, as I'm a former Corowa Shire ratepayer, but currently am a Federation ratepayer. So I asked Council to accept the status quo in transferring that opportunity for what I'm about to speak of. I just want to detail the situation in a little bit of depth, not too much, but we've been on the journey, some of us, since right through the opportunity under the Administrator, where there were budget sessions and all the rest of it. I was one of the protagonists that kept objecting to the opportunity of the increase bestowed upon the former Corowa Shire farmland of an increase of 14.9%, which was adopted by the Administrator. And why I come to that position of angst is because in the former role as the Mayor of this Shire, I, along with the former General Manager, Mr. Gillard, demonstrated to community at 4 or 5 meetings to promote the increase at that time of 7% across the board. Okay, there was no deliberation, no explanation to the community about a segregation of different variations, of different ratios. But what was adopted in the 2017-18 budget was not the 7% evenly, but a selected ratio of farmland 14.9, residential 3.2, and business 0.2. This has now become an accumulative increase per assessment, for which the rural landowners in the former Corowa Shire are now paying more than $1 extra per acre right across the board. Now, I'm not being sectional with the northern section or the southern section of the former Shire. Please believe me, that's not part of the equation. I've been on this journey since those budget meetings. And some of that increase now is attuning to anywhere between $5,000 or up to $25,000 or more, depends on the size of the holding, for the former Corowa Shire farmland people. Mr. Eden, when he was the Administrator, he promoted the increase as a result of farmers having a good year in the 2016 calendar year, and that their unimproved capital value had risen and they could afford the increase. I heard it 7 times. Remembering, a lot of the farmers in that calendar year lost up to 70% of their crop return because of floods, especially out around the Daysdale area. Farmers have accepted the unimproved capital value rise, but the current hurt is that when Mr Eden made his comments that there was extra money in the budget to fix country roads so as farmers could get their produce to market. That was his catchcry. Well, currently farmers ring me up everywhere in the former Corowa Shire to say any works of the last calendar year were a token. And that they're unsealed roads, and we're talking about not sealed roads, but unsealed roads between properties, are in very bad condition, and they're worried that the new cropping season is not far away. So they've got to get their crop in this window. Now, and so my question to Mr Gall, once again I appreciate your attention to the document that you've provided, Mr Gall. It's not about capital works programs. It's about regular grading of rural roads and input of gravel on the sections that are clay bound to get that, so that this coming winter they can get their crops in with the confidence that between their properties, and remembering there are a lot of contracted farmers in the area that use roads to access their opportunity to make a living. What I also may ask, if I can, Mr Mayor, is that in the rural unsealed road rural resheet program north and south, which is to commence February, March, which I appreciate, the weather's fine to go forward. What I'd ask of, in the detailed capital expenditure 2017-18 document that came out the other day with our agenda, the resheet program for the northern section 17-18 was detailed at $550,000 in the original budget. It's now been changed to $750,000. The resheet program in the southern section 17-18 has been changed from $750,000 to $550,000, a deficit of $200,000. So I appreciate you giving us these documents, Mr Gall, but can I ask you, what would be the reason for the $200,000 being shifted from the southern section to the northern section? Remembering, I'm not trying to discriminate. I'm trying to prove a point that the former Corowa Shire farmers are in badly need of money being spent on the road, not taking away from the northern section, but because their effort to support with their rates currently is a determination that should be noted. So that's my point. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor. In the budget, we differentiated between north and south, not based on the roads necessarily, but on who's supervising the project. So the supervisors are clear as to what budgets they're working within. Our supervisor from the north end has some projects that actually overlap into the old Corowa Shire space. That's why there's a difference there. It's not about north and south per se.
Thank you.
So with those programs, what we will have hopefully by the end of this week is a detailed program of which roads and which lengths. I can forward that to councillors once I have that, and I'll vet it to make sure that we're not overdoing some and undercooking others, etc. And the same with our grading programs that will be moving forward as well. Once I've got those, I can provide them to councillors, which will more than likely show that rough equality across the whole council area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire. We'll move on to 9.2, notice of motion. Moved by Councillor Longmire. We have a second for that one. Councillor Long. Second, Councillor Longmire, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I apologise for hogging the platform currently, but with a couple of things that turned up these items.
Councillor Longmire, would you like me to read that motion out for you? Like, read the motion out and then you can speak. What would you prefer?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, that's how I propose to do it.
Okay.
And the background information I will also demonstrate in my presentation. Yeah. That's okay?
That's fine.
But certainly, as council, the notice of motion that council urgently halts the Corowa Skate Park project until an assurance is given by council's project team that the Corowa Skate Park project will be in fact an extension to the existing skate park or at the least, a new park still based at the existing site. The council only consider other sites if community consultation on the new design for this site comes out strongly against the site. If I may, I'd like to speak.
Absolutely.
Thank you to Councillor Law, I think seconded the opportunity. Thank you for that. And I know the skate park is very close to her and members of her family for the right reasons, no question. I believe that this issue is a commencement to demonstrate to our communities in this democratically elected council that we have here now, what we will demonstrate, well, when needed, we will stand up for the benefit of our young people. There's no better subject topic. We witnessed at this council last year that, to the amazement of the people of the Skate Park Committee, the former General Manager, Mr Gillard, announced at one that there was now $331,170 available for the redevelopment from the Community Grants Fund. The project had a total cost of $354,750 and is to be supported by the Skate Park Committee to the tune of $16,130 and a contribution from the RSL of $5,000. And that all options, including relocation, would be looked at. The original submission from the Skate Park Committee for the community grants funding was in the area of around about $170,000. So to their surprise, a much larger amount was allocated. However, the Skate Park Committee, the local residents and the community were never engaged in consultation. Can I stress at this point, very important, that our current acting General Manager, Mr Butler, was never part of this process. The journey to go forward from now on is for this council to recognise the strong concerns of the Skate Park Committee and for the project team to liaise with them and then report back to council with all available information. Which leads me to say, I am seeking the support of my fellow councillors on this matter. The Corowa Skate Park Committee representatives, operating under the Apex Group, feel they have been mistreated and misled along this process, where they feel the project has gone from a grant they submitted initially to council to extend the current skate park to a much larger pool project, where it is now looking like a whole new skate park may be built on a site elsewhere in the town, or maybe at another park in the town. The process to create a new skate park in a town, as anyone who has any knowledge of this would know, it is very controversial. Despite the fact that there may be some limits with the current site, with proper design and practices, these should be able to be minimised. If community consultation comes out strongly against this site, when the design and approvals are consulted on this site, only then should a relocation be looked at. I conclude with that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Longhorn. Councillor Whitechurch, did you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I could echo Councillor Longmire's words in that, and probably elaborate a little bit to the point that I think there's been a huge misunderstanding, largely through the community, probably charged by multimedia, in the fact that the perception seems to be in the public that the council were supporting the relocation of a skate park. Never, and I'll be standing corrected, has anything been put to this Federation Council regarding the relocation of the skate park. And no one was more dumbfounded than myself to hear that the skate park was talked about being relocated. So at that point, I made it my duty to find out what this was all about, because I was getting bombed. And I'm saying I know nothing about it, to which only prior to the Corowa Council administration days was that ever discussed. And I now know that it was only discussed because the consultant at the time, and the current consultant of the park, had a full due diligence to do as part of his consultation process. And that meant from investigating the existing skate park, investigating its structural integrity, investigating the demographics, including if the park was going to be growing and skateboarding was going to become the next major sport of Australia, that it was going to fit there. That was where the consultant in his draft report, from what I believe, had come out and said, oh, we've got to investigate all avenues, and if that avenue is that we have to relocate it, that's where this has come from. I'd just like to clarify that it was never brought to this council, and I'm sure this council, and I speak on myself and for all of them, I'm sure if we put it to the vote, would find that there's never an intention in the past to relocate the park. It hasn't been discussed in this room, and it would certainly be through full public consultation, and I think we'd have to be led by the people that have put the skate park there. That's the volunteers that helped put it there all the way along. It's certainly not our position to make that decision without consultation. That certainly wasn't our decision at any point.
Thank you, Councillor. That's true. Any further debate? Councillor Law.
I don't think that we've been misled with what's happening, but we haven't been informed. And that's an important part of council's role, of the head table, to inform the councillors when they're altering plans that were made. The plans that were submitted were for an extension to the skate park, not for another site. So when it comes to a time that there is a decision to look at other sites, we should be informed and asked our opinion. That's what we're here for. We're here to represent the community, and we can't represent the community if we're not informed.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Law, and I will reiterate Councillor Whitechurch's words and confirm that relocation has never been a subject in this council.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I can, and elaborating on from Councillor Law's comments, perhaps to the appropriate member of staff, just to clarify where that document and draft document for the skate park sat at, in relation to we weren't informed. My understanding from my own personal investigations in this, and only in recent days and week, is that it's in the very, very early stages, and it probably has come out, not saying premature, but the fact that it was suggested by the consultant one of his areas of investigation. I think that's been grabbed by a particular sector, and I can understand where that would come about, but perhaps if the appropriate member of staff can just elaborate on where that's at.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I guess we got to this point in light of similar projects such as Lonsdale Reserve, where we had a range of issues that were out in the community being discussed that were generated, I guess, by previous consultation, by user groups, by council themselves, by us as directors and staff ourselves. We saw there was a need to actually reconsult the community, reset the project in essence, to go back and ask that very basic question right at the start: is this the right spot? Because in all my work here so far, I haven't seen anybody ask a basic question. I don't know what the answer is. It may very well be, let's leave it exactly where it is and do extension work and regenerate or renew what's there. I don't know that. I'm not trying to preempt anything. That's where we've got to the brief with the consultant. Your first question, as with any piece of playground or community type infrastructure, there's always, is it the right place? As a first question. Then once we establish, yes, it is the right place, and as I said, it might very well be, then we roll forward with the design on that site. At this point, the consultant's providing a draft questionnaire around it. He's had a walk around town and look at all the available public spaces. He's set up a draft questionnaire of what he thinks 3 sites might be. That's the first phase of the consultation. That will come to council once we're satisfied that we've got the right questions and that. We will discuss it with council and move forward with the consultation around that. We'll report that back to council, as per any other consultation we do, so that you're aware of what the community is saying. We're aiming to spread as wide as we can in the community, through the schools as well, and the design of that consultation process will be a bit different than what's been occurred in the past. So that's where we're basically at the moment, early stage. Draft questionnaire is still to be received so that we can have a look at it as management, and we'll keep council informed on the way through.
Thank you, Mr. Law. Any further questions or comments on that one, Councillor? We've got a motion. Councillor Longwell, yes.
If there's no more questions, or
Would anyone else like to speak before? If not,
I'll write a reply. Thank you. Just, I'm not sure who to direct the question to, but the budget, the numbers that I've announced here today, what sort of budget, where are we at? Are you able to explain? I'm not sure where to go with this one.
Councillor, well, I'll just check that out before and then come back to you. Kids, are you comfortable with that?
What's your question?
In regard to, if there was $354,000 or thereabouts,
That's
and what's left in the budget?
Stronger Communities Fund is where that's currently sitting.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, but have we already spent X amount of dollars in consultancy? The question I'm getting asked is, how much is left?
That would, I'd have to take that on notice, but I think it's
7,000.
Yeah, it was something less than 10,000 as far as I knew, and I'm not sure whether that was included what the committee had already commissioned from the same consultants, what I was aware of.
Am I correct that this is the second consultant or the same consultant?
It's the second consultant, I think, is the same. It happens to be the same consultant as the okay.
Councillor, sorry, thanks very much. The total budget, I'm just looking at that, was 333, yeah, and it looks like on the package about 7,000 spent on that.
So out of the total, the numbers that I explained, and remember I got these numbers to quote from the administrator's final report. So it's a document that's been prevalent out there in the community. So I'm not making them up. That's where I got it from. And so having said that, the question that's been asked of me, how much has been spent and, you know, how much is left, and we're now dealing with the second lot of consultants.
Yeah, we're guessing $10,000 been spent, but I think we're better off taking that on notice to get some accurate figures before we come out now.
Provide an explanation in terms of what that was spent on. So there was, the project was originally briefed in, at the request of the Skate Park Committee, around detailed design of the concept drawings that the Skate Park Committee had worked on. So there was a process of working with that committee in terms of preparing that design. That process, I guess we got to a fourth round of concepts, and the consultant said to us there were too many issues with the design, and that they declared that we had a design that they didn't support, and we didn't also gain the agreement of the Skate Park Committee on that design. There were a lot of constraints on the site, and they raised some real issues in terms of the value of what was left and the cost of extending on to that. So they said you really need to do a proper assessment of that. So following that, that was when we then said, okay, we need to restart this committee. The consultant restart the project. The consultant recommended that we needed to consult widely. So at the inception of the project, we hadn't completed, wide consultation. So we didn't run the project as we did at the Low Square project in Howlong. So stopped the project, prepared a new brief, called for submissions, because that process has taken probably 4 or 5 months because we didn't gain much interest. All of the really great skate park designers have been very, very busy. So we've had to go out to the market twice on that. And we've only really just appointed the consultant 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so we've only just had the first project sort of inception meeting, and he's had his first site visit. So we're only at the starting point of that project.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cope, for your explanation. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Councillor. If there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, item number 10, reports from the committee. There'll be no items. 11, reports from delegates. No reports from delegates. All correspondence. No items. And 13, confidential items. 13.1. So yes, would someone like to move that we go into closed council? Moved by Councillor Thomas, seconded by Councillor Wales.